Why'd you give your bishop for free, though? Come on, Ludwig. You had 500 gifted subs on the line. You cannot be living life with that kind of risk.
Alex. Here's a little thing that I'm going to pass on to you from one streamer to another. It's called throwing for content. You got to make it a little more exciting. All right? Throwing a hanging bishop. Have everybody in suspense for a moment. My endgame's phenomenal. Do you know why? I pick up Dvorsky's endgame book. Okay? Now, I can't read a fucking word of this because it's all in chess notation. It makes no sense. But I own it, and this alone has been a 300-point up for me.
Have you been like sleeping next to it, trying to get some, osmosis going on?
Every night. I no longer own a pillow. I just sleep on Dvorsky's book in 4th edition.
Okay, so let's take a look at the games. Let's start with the first game between Papaplatte and BoxBox. BoxBox with the black pieces, so I'll flip the board around. Okay, so the game was e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6 played here, knight c3, g6. So BoxBox plays the standard setup. He develops his bishop here. I'm not analyzing games like Fabiano against Magnus. As I told you guys before, and this is not a joke, I am not following that tournament I'm not following that tournament at all. When I get ready for my next serious event, probably in like 5 or 6 days, I will peruse the games, but I'm not looking at the games at all right now. Honestly, like Pogchamps is the event for me. Okay, so g6 played, bishop c4, h6. A little bit of a dubious move here by BoxBox. It wasn't necessary. He could have developed the bishop and then pushed the pawn here. h6 d4, they trade, bishop g7. And now knight to f3. Slightly dubious move here. Papaplatte probably could have brought the bishop and the queen and castled the king. Would have made a little bit more sense potentially, just because when you go here, knight g7, queen d2, there is this very slight weakness on h6 to worry about. So this would have been a little bit dangerous potentially. Instead, Papaplatte plays knight f3. Not a bad move at all. Knight g7, castles, bishop e3. Again, very solid, very developing moves. By dubious, I mean there are slightly better moves, but it's still reasonably okay. So rook e1, king h7 played again. BoxBox with a very straightforward idea of pushing f5 and f4, and also developing the bishop at some point as well. So now here, h4 is played by Papaplatte. Not the best move, of course. It creates a slight weakness. Now f5 is played in this position. Bishop b5. It's already a little bit hard for white to play. Perhaps he could have taken the pawn, but it's really kind of difficult to come up with moves. So bishop b5 takes knight e4. Bishop takes b2. Was played. Hikaru reading chat. Sag. Yeah. Rook b1. Bishop g7 is played here. Bishop c6. Again, you guys, I mean, if you want to talk about other events, that's completely fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just not following, honestly. It's just, I feel like if I'm going back, you guys, and this is not me trying to be disrespectful in any way towards top tournaments, but but I had this, I showed you guys this article, the yay and nay in terms of Pogchamps yesterday, and I kind of agree. Like, I think one more super tournament does not do anything fundamentally to build the world of chess. It's an event that, yes, top players get paid money. They get to make a living for playing the game, but it doesn't do anything to further the game of chess. And I would make the argument that Pogchamps does exactly that. Pogchamps there's probably going to be more than one Pogchamps, just saying. I'm not going to confirm or deny, but there's probably going to be more than one Pogchamps event that occurs. And it's something that going forward is something that will be remembered as an event that did popularize chess, something that made a difference in a way that a top level event does not make. So when I say that I'm not looking at the games and it's not something super relevant to me, I'm just being honest. Like, I would much rather focus on Pogchamps, and the lasting impact of an event like this, it means a lot more than some tournament that Magnus wins or Fabiano wins, or something of that sort. So that's just how I view things, you guys. So bishop g7 played, bishop takes c6, pawn takes bishop, knight d4 is played here by Papaplatte. A good move here, bringing the knight out of the center of the board. Am I going to do something with xQc soon? If he wants to, yeah. I mean, he doesn't play till the 17th, so he's got 3 days. So there's a lot of time still in terms of that. So d5. Now here Papaplatte blunders. He plays knight takes c6. What he should have played here was knight to c5. Now you get the knights on these central squares. You're really attacking here. And this is definitely quite good for white. Unfortunately, Papaplatte blunders with knight takes, and knight to c5. Would I retire in full-time stream? I mean, I'm not going to be playing chess forever, but at the moment, I still do intend to play chess tournaments. That's what I would say. So d4, bishop to f4. Another unfortunate move by Papaplatte. Queen h4, bishop g3. Now queen to g5. Bishop takes c7, bishop h3, bishop g3. Another good move by Papaplatte, preventing the checkmate with the bishop and the queen attacking down towards the white king. Bishop g4. Do I miss OTB games? You know, it's kind of weird. I feel like I miss, like, in a way, I miss, like, the seriousness of it, in a way, kind of, because I feel like when you play online tournaments, it doesn't feel super serious. You feel a little bit loosey-goosey, kind of too much, like, too relaxed, I guess I would say. But in general, I mean, I don't objectively miss over-the-board chess. I mean, not that much, but a little bit I do. Offline TV, yeah. Knight e6 played here by Papaplatte. Very good move, by the way, because your knight and your queen are under attack, so you can't really defend both. So knight to e6 was a great move here by Papaplatte. I was very impressed that he found this. BoxBox did think about rook takes f2. Wow, that's a good move. Thank you to How2K for the prime. Thank you to Jason Pierre Sweeney for the 9 months. Thank you so much. Thank you to Boomilan for the 2 months. Thank you to Dana J and Scott Ford as well for the 16. Thank you to Lair FV with the prime. Andrew Sads for the tier 1, and React JHK for the prime, and Burning Galaxy for the prime, and Jamie J for the 9 months. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys. And thank you to Feeder as well for the 2 months of Super King for the prime. Thank you. So yeah, so let's keep going. So bishop g4, knight e6. Excellent move played here by Papaplatte. Takes. Rook d1. Rook a d8 played here. A4. Knight e5. They trade. Rook c1. And here at this point, I remember watching this game, and at this point, Papaplatte was down to maybe 1 minute on the clock, or maybe a little bit lower, and I think BoxBox had maybe 2 minutes. The times were getting low. At any rate, Papaplatte played pawn push, which blundered this rook, and then after d3, rook e8. The rest of this was pretty straightforward. Not much really to go through. BoxBox converts pretty nicely here. Just takes, and then he goes here, and then rook a1 with the checkmate, basically. So not a whole lot that was super exciting in this game, other than the one moment when Papaplatte blundered by playing knight takes c6, which was not the best move, of course. So that was the big mistake in the game by Papaplatte, was making this knight takes c6 move. If he had done something a little bit different, no, I don't think it was a BM. I think that what happened is BoxBox, I don't know if he slipped or what he did, but it didn't make any difference. If he was BMing, he would have actually made like 5 rooks or something insane like that. So it was definitely not like that. Thank you to G Marin as well for the tier 1. Appreciate it. Thank you, man. So very clean game by BoxBox. He wins the group, 9 points, 3 out of 3, and moves on to the bracket stage. Let me see if I actually have that. Let me see. I'll pull that up in a little bit. Anyway, as I was saying, you guys, very clean game by BoxBox. 3 out of 3, finishes on 9 points. He wins Group D. He moves on into the champions bracket, where I believe he is going to be facing Forrest in the first round. So that's going to be a very very interesting game, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. Thank you. That's the move for the prime as well. Really appreciate it. Thank you, man. So let's keep going. Okay, so let's take a look at this game. So e4, e5. Is played. Now he goes knight f3, knight f6, knight c3, bishop c5 played by Swiftor. Gambiting the pawn on e5. Ludwig does not take. He goes pawn to h3, castles pawn to d4. Here Swiftor was actually much better in the game. If he takes with the pawn and plays rook to e8, he would have been significantly better. White can't really defend the pawn easily, because if you move the bishop, then black takes the knight on d4. So this would have been much better for Swiftor. Anyway, Swiftor takes. They play this position knight c6. Good move. Queen d1. Français. Oui. So queen d2, d6, bishop c4, knight e5. And here Ludwig blunders. He castles the king, and Swiftor does not take advantage of it. He instead basically he plays a6. He could have just taken this for free. A6, queen to e2 here. Pawn to b5, bishop b3, b4, another reasonable move. Knight d5, trade, takes, and this is where Swiftor had to play pawn to c6, so the knight supports the pawn and you attack the bishop. I don't know if Swiftor as a coach necessarily. He definitely has done a little bit. He did a lesson with I think Daniel Naroditsky, maybe one lesson I think with Naroditsky, but again, everybody has their own schedule or how they learn and so forth, so not everybody is doing things the exact same way. So c6, bishop b3, a5 would have been the right way to play here because you threatened to attack the bishop. You also have this idea to skewer the queen and the rook, and white is maybe still better after rook d1, but it's not so obvious or easy to play. Instead, rook b8 is played. Now f4, knight to g6, pawn to b3 is played by Ludwig. Now pawn to a5. Bishop b2, knight takes f4. Unfortunate blunder here by Swiftor at this point. He obviously was feeling the pressure. Very difficult position. White has two very nice bishops here on both of these diagonals, and the king is just kind of open here. So knight takes f4 was an unfortunate blunder. Rook takes f4 played. Queen to g5. Now he plays rook a f1, doubling up the rooks on the f file and threatening to capture the pawn on f7 here. Bishop takes h3, queen f3 was played by Ludwig. Very nice move here. I mean, maybe not the absolute best move, but very clean move, just solidifying the what did he call this? The triple legacy, was it? Or what was it called, chat? I forgot. What was it called? The triple something. What was it called? The legendary triple stack. Yes, the legendary triple stack, exactly. So Ludwig got the legendary triple stack here on this f file, and basically at this point the game is over because the bishop is under attack and white's just crashing through. So takes, trade. White no longer is the legendary triple stack, but white still is the legendary double stack combined with the double snipers here. So at this point it's completely GG pretty much. c5 takes, pawn here, rook g7 played by Ludwig, king g8, and then rook g5, and just basically force checkmate the fossil into the checkmate played by Ludwig. Not a whole lot to say about this game, which is why it's a pretty quick game going over, but essentially a very clean game. Other than the one mishap by Ludwig, he played more or less a perfect game from start to finish. Really nothing bad to say. Swiftor, very difficult kind of opening because he didn't have the opening set up. He ended up in trouble instantly, and he paid the price for that, which is why Ludwig won this game so cleanly. So Ludwig won this game, which meant that he finished, I believe, in 3rd place in Group D, and Swiftor finished in 4th place in Group D, which means that Ludwig plays against Chocobars, and Swiftor plays against I believe Slicker, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be an interesting matchup for sure in between Group C and D, and I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you, Chodeg X, for the Prime. Appreciate it. Thank you, man. So yeah, basically at this point it's just very good to see Ludwig. He's definitely one of the biggest contenders in Group D for sure, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens. So all right, let's take a look at the last game of the bracket stage of Pogchamps. This was a game between, I think this was Hutch, right? Yeah, this was XQC. So all right, okay, let's take a look at this game between XQC and the mighty Hutch. Okay, so e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6. XQC plays bishop b5. Good move. Thank you to Cat for the 2 months. So basically, XQC plays the Ross Limo opening. Fun fact for those of you who are unfamiliar with the basic history. But Ross, thank you to Tommy the Cat 93 for the 1,000 bits. Are you able to enjoy watching lower tier chess like this? I'm so excited by what this is doing for the chess community. Yeah, totally. I'm enjoying it a lot. So XQC played the Ross Limo defense. Fun fact, but Ross Limo was a French grandmaster, but because he couldn't make a living from chess, he was also a taxi driver. So Ross Limo was a grandmaster at chess, but because he couldn't make a living from the game as a player, he was actually driving taxi. He was a taxi driver in New York City. So yeah. So D6 team is XQC. Okay, so D6 trade, castles. Hutch plays G6 here. XQC plays B3. A better move here would have been to play like pawn C3 and D4. Try to take the center. Also H3 maybe at some point to stop this bishop coming here. So B3. Why didn't Ross Limo just stream? Good one. He only died like 40 years ago, you guys. He died in the 70s at some point, I think. which actually is like more than 40 years ago. So c3, knight f6 was played here. Now here xQc played queen e2, castles, and he plays e5. Very nice move, getting rid of the weakness. Knight to d5, and now pawn to c4. A 1970s stream, exactly. So knight c7 played here. xQc plays knight c3, bishop g4, h3. Very good move by xQc. They trade bishop e5, queen c6. Even material here. Rook to b8 played, bishop to b2, rook b6, queen f3. So here Hutch plays queen to d7, and now rook d1, rook d8, and this is where the fateful moment occurs in the game. xQc basically plays some developing moves, but at this point he lost the thread, didn't understand how to try to continue playing with the pieces, and he plays knight to d5, which is a fairly severe blunder. What he should have done here was played rook to e1. And let's just say black, I don't know, plays a move like rook b8, you go knight a4, trade the bishops, and the idea at some point is to go d4 and use these rooks on these open lines towards the black queen and the black rook. And at this point, white would be quite a bit better here. Unfortunately, xQc goes knight d5. Now bishop takes bishop, knight takes, pawn takes. And black has the knight and the bishop for the rook. And in this case, because the rooks are so passive here, it's actually a very big advantage due to the passivity of the white rooks. So here queen b7 was played. Now Hutch plays knight a8. They trade the queens. Rook to b1 was played by xQc. Bishop d4, very solid move. Rook e1. Now pawn to e5 is played by xQc. b4, f5, and they play a bunch of moves. And it was at this point that when xQc was thinking, the idea was to play a5. I am not disappointed. I was very impressed by xQc's play. And it was at this fateful moment after Hutch played e4 that xQc could have played pawn to a5, and the position is still losing objectively, but basically white can do the legendary double and try to take the pawn on b6 here, and he would be slightly better. Or no, he would only be slightly worse. Still losing with correct play, but not easy to find the right idea. So g4, rook a7, and here xQc makes the fatal blunder. He plays rook takes b6, which allows knight takes b6, and at this point, essentially the game is over. White is down a knight and a bishop. xQc plays on a few more moves, blunders rook a1 and the final rook, and the rest really we don't need to go through because it's just Hutch basically cleans it up. No real risk here. Queen h1. Rook covers the squares, king and the pawn cover all the critical squares, and at this point, white loses the game, and xQc ends on 0 out of 3. But for the first 15 moves of the game, basically for 17 moves, I would say of the game, xQc played very well, and it's only on the 18th move they blundered. So the fact that xQc kept the material balance even up until move 18, was playing very solid chess, is definitely inspiring, and it sets him up very well for the consolation bracket where we will be playing against Fuseli in the first match. I think I will be helping I think I will be giving xQc a lesson at some point. Let me see if he actually messaged me or not. Probably he did not, but I'll check anyway. Oh wait, there is a message. Who messaged me? Oh no, it's not xQc. Never mind. Okay. Anyway, yeah. So it was a different streamer actually. But yeah, so as I was saying, you guys, xQc is set up very well, and I do think he has good chances in the match against Fuseli. I will be giving him help if he wants help, so looking forward to it, and we'll see what happens. But certainly a very inspiring game today played by xQc. I should have the bracket somewhere. If I don't, then that it is what it is. Do I have the bracket here? I do have the bracket, right? Yeah, I do have both brackets. Let me pull them up. 1 second. Okay, and then this one. Okay. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna pull up the brackets briefly, you guys. So here are the brackets. I'll pull up the consolation first. So this is going to be the consolation bracket. I think you guys can see it probably pretty clearly. So the matches are as follows. So whoa, who's that? Who's that? Sorry, I didn't see it.
The show.
Wait, did I get a raid or am I blind? Why don't I see it? I don't see it. What just happened? Did I miss something? What? No, I don't see anything. Okay, whatever. Okay. Yeah, I don't see anything, but whatever. Okay. All right. So yeah. All right. So the first match in the consolation bracket will be tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time. It'll be the matchup between Moist Critical and E-Rob. It should be a fun matchup. I think Moist Critical is the favorite, but anything can happen. And I think E-Rob is feeling much better about himself. He played very well in the final. Played very well in the final game against Voyboy. So I think anything could happen. I think Moist Critical is a clear favorite. But I do think he has chances. So that's the only match tomorrow in the consolation bracket. The other matches in the consolation bracket are between it's Slicker and Swiftor. That will be at 4 p.m. Eastern, and then at 6 p.m. Eastern it will be Chocobars against Ludwig. I think there are clear favorites in all four of the matches. Thank you to Vumu for the 300 bits. I think the favorites are probably I think Ludwig is probably a favorite over Chocobars. I'm fanboying XQC too much. It's unreasonable, and I don't feel like it's being appreciated from the side of XQC. Dude, like, chill out, man. Like, seriously. That's, like, completely insane. So yeah, Moist Critical is probably the favorite over E-Rob. I think Slicker is probably favored over Swiftor. Ludwig probably should be the favorite over Chocobars. And then I would say XQC and Fusa is the only match which I'm not sure about. I have no idea what's going on and who's going to be the favorite in that matchup. I do think either player can win. I think XQC and Fusli is probably the closest matchup, is my guess, out of all the matchups. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. So that's the consolation bracket. So I'm just gonna pop up the other one as well. So in the champions bracket, what we have is the matchup between, we have a bunch of matchups. I think we've got two matches tomorrow, so we have the matchup tomorrow between Voyboy and Yasuo, the premier matchup. It's best of two. You play one game with white, one game with black, and then if it's tied 1-1, you have a blitz game of 3 minutes, no second increment to decide who the winner is. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be very dramatic. So it's Yasuo Voyboy tomorrow. Voyboy is the favorite, but Yasuo certainly has chances, I feel, based on what I showed him tonight. And then what else do we have? We have tomorrow we also have the match between Hutch and Nate Hill, which will be at 5 p.m. Eastern. Consolation bracket, I think, is mixed. I think it's I think the match between XQC and Fusli is going to be 2 games, white and black. Some games are one game, are going to be best of one. So it's kind of a mix. I think they let the players decide what they want to play, 1 game or 2 games. So I'll give you my favorites in this one. I think Voyboy is still the favorite, but Yasuo is definitely a very dangerous opponent, so I think anything can happen. In the match between Nim and Papaplatte, I think Nim is probably a clear favorite objectively. In the matchup between Hutch and Nate Hill, I think Hutch is a big favorite. And then the matchup between BoxBox and Forrest, that is going to be the premier matchup. I think either player could win. I don't know who's going to win, but I think that's probably the closest out of all of them. Unless Yasuo gets an attacking position. If Yasuo gets his attacking positions, I think he will have a chance against Voyboy. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in all the matches. But matches begin tomorrow again, I think at 4 p.m. Eastern, if I'm not mistaken. So there will be 3 matches tomorrow, 2 in the champions bracket, 1 in the consolation bracket, and it's going to be fun to see what happens.